What happens when the CEO of an 8-location diner chain goes undercover and eats alone in a staff room only to overhear the real truth his employees never dared to say? Colton West leaned back in his leather office chair, a steaming cup of black coffee untouched on his desk. He stared at the latest customer feedback report for store number 5, located just outside of Cleveland. The numbers weren't terrible, but they weren't great either. And the comments? Cold food, rude service, dirty floors. He rubbed his temples, frustrated. How the hell does this keep slipping through? He muttered. His father had built the diner chain from the ground up. Colton inherited it 5 years ago after his dad's unexpected passing. Since then, he'd expanded to 8 locations, stretched across 3 states. He spent most of his time overseeing new development, supplier contracts, and marketing deals. But lately, something felt off. His district manager, Dave, always kept things sounding positive. Minor bumps, he'd say. Store 5 just needs a little tightening up. But Colton had heard that line before. It was the same thing said about Store 3, and that place needed a full management overhaul before it got back on track. I'm not hearing the truth, Colton said under his breath. I need to see it. He made the decision quietly. The next day, he called in a favor from his old college roommate, now working in television makeup. Within hours, they designed a full disguise, thicker beard, trimmed hair, fake glasses, and a slight southern accent he'd picked up from his uncle in Arkansas. He'd go by Chuck. Colton had never personally met the crew at Store 5. It was a busy location, one of the first his father had opened. Most of the original team had moved on. Turnover had been high lately, but no one gave him straight answers why. The plan was simple. He'd spend 2 days as a new trainee dishwasher. See how the place ran from the inside. Then he'd know exactly who was helping and who was hurting. He arrived on a cloudy Monday afternoon, wearing a wrinkled hoodie and steel-toe shoes. The manager, a wiry guy in his 40s named Trent, barely looked up from his clipboard when Colton walked in. You're the new hire? Yes, sir, Colton replied. Name? Chuck. Trent scratched it onto the paper. Dish pits in the back. You'll shadow Micah. Don't touch anything unless he says so. We're slammed tonight, so don't get in the way. No welcome. No tour. Not even a handshake. Micah, a high school senior with tired eyes and a quiet voice, showed him around. The kitchen was hot and cramped. Orders shouted. Plates clattered. Colton kept his head down and followed instructions. By the end of the shift, his back ached and his fingers were pruned from the sink. He sat alone in the staff room, a cramped space with a flickering light and a busted vending machine humming in the corner. He pulled out a tuna sandwich with stale bread from the fridge. Then the door creaked open. 2 employees walked in: Jenna, a server in her 20s with sharp eyes, and a shorter woman with curly hair named Brooke. They didn't notice him at first. I'm so sick of Trent, Jenna muttered, tossing her apron on the chair. I asked for Saturday off 3 weeks ago. He approved it. Now he says I never told him. Brooke opened a soda. He's done that to me twice. He's just trying to punish people he doesn't like. You know he gave Kyle the weekend off even though he didn't request it. Jenna scoffed. Because Kyle jokes around with him about football. That's all it takes. Brooke sat down with a sigh. I'm starting to hate coming in. It's not the work. It's the way we're treated. Then Jenna lowered her voice. You know what's messed up? We're short 3 people. And instead of helping, Trent just chills in the office. Doesn't lift a finger. And if someone complains to Dave, he tells them they're being dramatic. Colton slowly chewed his sandwich, heartbeat rising. Brooke nodded. I told Dave last month that Jenna was crying in the walk-in cooler. From stress. The next day, Trent made her clean grease traps alone. Jenna laughed bitterly. He told me, maybe if you smiled more, you wouldn't have so many problems here. Like I'm the issue. Colton clenched his jaw. He wanted to say something, but he kept quiet. Then Jenna glanced over at him.
Hey, new guy, right?
Yeah, Colton nodded. You'll see what we mean. Just keep your head down. And don't trust Trent. He'll throw you under the bus if he thinks it'll make him look good. Colton held her gaze. Thanks for the heads up. They left a few minutes later, not giving him another look. He sat there, sandwich half eaten, stomach twisted. This wasn't just a bad night. This was a culture problem. And now he knew exactly where to start. By Tuesday morning, the air inside the kitchen was thick with fryer grease and tension. Colton stood at the sink again, hands in rubber gloves, rinsing off plates slick with hollandaise and syrup. The breakfast rush had started early. 2 buses pulled in before 7, and they were already down one line cook. No one said anything out loud, but the rhythm was off. People moved faster than they could think, and the stress rippled through the air like static charge. Micah passed him a stack of heavy ceramic plates. His voice was flat. Make sure you scrub the undersides. Trent checks them during random spot inspections. Colton nodded, wiping steam from his forehead with the back of his sleeve. How often does he do that? Micah glanced over his shoulder. Only if he thinks he can catch someone messing up. From the service window, Trent's voice barked out. Table 12's pancakes are cold. Who the hell plated these? A woman in her 50s stepped back from the grill, face flushed. Her name tag read Carla. She kept her eyes on the flat top. They were hot when I sent them out. Trent pointed a finger. Then you're not moving fast enough. Do it again, and move your feet this time. Colton watched Carla flip a fresh set of pancakes without a word. Her hands trembled slightly. He turned to Micah. Is it always like this? Micah didn't answer right away. He rinsed a mug, set it on the drying rack, then leaned in just enough to speak over the hiss of the spray nozzle. He yells more when Dave's not around. And he never jumps in to help unless someone from corporate's visiting. Colton dried his hands and walked over to the back prep area. Jenna stood beside a tray of toast, arranging sides with machine-quick precision. She barely glanced at him. You're the dishwasher, right? She asked.
Yeah.
She handed him a plate. Can you run this back to table 4? They wanted extra jam. He took it without hesitation. As he stepped into the dining room, a wave of noise hit him, forks clinking, conversations layered over each other. The layout was dated, booths worn down to the foam, but the customers kept coming. That much was clear. At table 4, an older couple thanked him warmly as he set down the plate. He smiled and turned to head back. That's when he noticed a young woman near the soda station wiping down the floor. Her posture was low and tight, like she was trying to disappear. Another server, tall, with a tattoo sleeve, leaned against the wall sipping his drink. You missed a spot, he said. She looked up. I just did that area. He tilted his head. Then maybe use your eyes this time. Colton froze. The girl didn't argue. She just lowered her head and kept wiping. He walked past, back to the kitchen, fury simmering in his chest. Inside, Brooke was grabbing a fresh stack of menus. He approached her quietly. Who's the girl cleaning by the soda station? Brooke didn't look up. That's Kenzie. She's new. She okay? She'd be better if Drew stopped riding her every second. Colton kept his voice even. That the guy with the tattoos? Brooke nodded. He's Trent's buddy. Started a few months ago. Doesn't do much, but makes sure everyone knows he's in charge when Trent's not around. Why does she put up with it? Because she needs the job. Her mom's sick. She's trying to keep things together. Colton didn't respond. He stepped back behind the dish pit and kept scrubbing. By noon, Carla was gone. No explanation. One of the other cooks whispered that she'd walked out after Trent slammed a pan onto her station for being too slow. No replacement showed up. The lunch rush came hard. Jenna took on double sections. Micah stayed through his break. Kenzie moved between bussing, wiping tables, and restocking without a word. Drew vanished for nearly 40 minutes. When he returned, he had a smoothie in hand and grease-free shoes. Colton caught up with Jenna as she grabbed napkins from the supply closet. Her hands shook slightly. "You doing all right?" he asked. She gave a humorless laugh. "I'm on my 9th table, and I haven't peed since I clocked in. So, yeah, living the dream." He stepped back. "You shouldn't have to run like this. Why doesn't Trent call and help? He says overtime isn't in the budget. But I've seen the numbers. We're pulling in more than enough." "Where is he right now?" "Probably the office. That's where he hides during the rush." Colton waited until the next lull in orders. Then he slipped down the back hallway to the small office, pretending to look for more soap refills. The door was cracked open. Trent sat with his feet up on the desk, scrolling through his phone. The radio played low, some sports commentary. A takeout bag sat on the shelf behind him. Colton didn't knock. He walked back to the dish pit and grabbed another pan. Micah glanced his way. "You good?" "Just learning the place," Colton said. That night, cleanup dragged. Carla never came back. Kenzie nearly fell asleep at the table washing station. Drew disappeared again. Trent didn't say a word about it. After closing, Colton returned to the staff room. Jenna and Brooke were already there. Kenzie walked in a minute later and sat slowly. Colton offered her a bottle of water from the fridge. "You worked hard today," he said. Kenzie gave a tired nod. "I don't want to get in trouble for doing something wrong." Jenna leaned back against the wall. "You didn't. Drew's just a jerk." Brooke folded her arms. "He told me yesterday that he doesn't listen to women who don't carry themselves like they care. Whatever that means." Jenna scoffed. "He told me my voice was annoying. Said I should talk less and smile more." Kenzie's eyes dropped to the floor. "He told me I should wear tighter jeans if I wanted better shifts." Colton felt his chest tighten. "How long has this been going on?" he asked quietly. Brooke's voice was sharp. "Since he started. But Trent backs him up. Says we're too sensitive." Kenzie added, "I told Dave once. He said he'd look into it. Then nothing changed. I just stopped saying anything." Colton set his water down. He stood up and walked out without a word. In the alley behind the building, he called HR from his personal line. "Effective immediately," he said. "Drew is terminated. I'll provide a full report later, but he is not to return to that location under any circumstances." The voice on the other end didn't argue. "Understood." He hung up. Then he called Dave. "Tomorrow morning," he said. "I want you at store 5 before opening. We have a serious problem." Dave sounded confused. "What's going on?" "We'll talk in person. And bring the employee files. Every one of them." Colton went home that night without removing his disguise. He didn't sleep. He didn't even sit. He stared at the wall, going over every detail in his head. This wasn't bad management anymore. This was abuse. And it ended now. The next morning, the parking lot was still half empty when Colton arrived, still in his Chuck disguise, though his posture had changed. There was no more uncertainty in his step. His eyes scanned the line cooks gathering at the back door, the servers unlocking the side entrance, the slow shuffle of exhausted bodies preparing for another day. He didn't walk inside. Not yet. Dave's car pulled in 10 minutes later. He parked, got out, and adjusted his blazer like he was preparing for a client meeting. Colton waved him over.
"Follow my lead," he said.
"Say nothing unless I ask." Dave blinked.
"All right."
"Should I?" Colton turned and walked toward the building without waiting for a response. Inside, Trent was already in the office. The door was open, and he was leaning forward in his chair, sipping coffee from a branded mug. Without looking up, he called out, "If you're late, clock in anyway. I'm not dealing with time card edits today." Colton stepped into the doorway. "You won't have to." Trent looked up, confused. His eyes shifted from Colton to Dave, then back. "I don't know who you are, but this office is for management only." Colton pulled off his glasses, then the fake beard. He didn't bother with the voice anymore. I'm Colton West. Trent froze, mouth slightly parted. Dave stepped forward, putting a hand on the back of a chair like he suddenly needed the support. Colton didn't raise his voice. You've been managing this store for how many years? Trent swallowed. 6. In those 6 years, how many formal complaints have you recorded from employees? Trent hesitated. None that were 0. Colton cut in. You've logged 0. I handle things in-house, Trent said quickly. We keep issues internal, so they don't spiral. Colton took a step closer. Kenzie was harassed. Jenna was retaliated against. Carla walked off the line mid-shift yesterday, and not a single person checked on her. And Drew, your hand-picked golden boy, was using his shifts to intimidate and degrade the people around him. Trent's face tightened, but he didn't speak. Colton turned to Dave. He was terminated last night. Dave nodded. Understood. Colton looked back at Trent. You'll clear out your things before we open. HR will be in touch by this afternoon. Effective immediately, you're no longer employed by this company. Trent stood up fast. Hold on. You're firing me over gossip? These are kids. They exaggerate everything. You think you're getting the full story from a dishwasher? Colton's voice didn't waver. I was the dishwasher. Trent's mouth opened, then closed again. Colton stepped aside. Go. Trent moved past him slowly, disbelief written across every step. He didn't speak to Dave. He didn't look back. Colton turned to Dave. Get me every employee file. I want to know who's been overlooked and who's been carrying this place on their back. They spent the next 20 minutes reviewing time cards, shift notes, and internal schedules. Colton flipped through Jenna's file first. No disciplinary actions. Multiple shift covers. Not one raise in over a year. Why hasn't she been promoted? Colton asked. Dave shifted. Trent said she didn't have leadership skills. Colton didn't reply. He picked up Kenzie's folder. Only 3 weeks on staff. Perfect attendance. No reported issues. She'll be offered a transfer to a location with a stronger team. Somewhere she can grow. Dave nodded. I'll arrange it. Colton closed the last folder. I want to speak to the team before we open. He found them in the kitchen, gathered around the prep counter. Jenna was tying her apron. Brooke stood next to her, folding menus. Kenzie leaned against the back wall, arms crossed, eyes wary. Micah was stacking plates, pausing when he saw Colton walk in. Colton set down the disguised glasses on the stainless steel counter. I've been here the last 2 days as Chuck, he said. I've seen what you deal with. I've seen who steps up, who gets ignored, who gets mistreated. No one spoke. He continued. Trent is no longer with the company. Drew is gone. And I'm here to make sure what happened here never happens again. Jenna's eyes narrowed. Is this permanent? Or just until the next review cycle? It's permanent, Colton said. I'll be assigning a new interim manager, someone who knows how to build a team, not tear one down. Until then, I'll be staying to help run the store. No office. No shortcuts. You'll see me on the floor. Brooke exhaled. What about Carla? I reached out this morning. She's taking time off. When she's ready, there's a job waiting at any location she chooses. Kenzie shifted. And the next time someone like Drew shows up? Colton's voice was firm. You report it. Directly to me if needed. There will be 0 tolerance moving forward. You have my word. Micah raised a hand slightly. What about the schedule? We're still short. I know, Colton said. We'll bring in support staff from other locations starting tomorrow. Until then, we run lean, but we do it together. No one works through breaks. No one gets left behind. The team looked at each other. The tension hadn't vanished, but something had begun to shift. Colton picked up a prep knife and walked to the cutting board. Let's get ready for breakfast. He worked beside them through the morning. Jenna took point on the floor, coordinating with Micah to speed up dish returns. Brooke handled the register and helped Kenzie restock. Colton floated between stations, checking food temps, clearing plates, and offering help where it was needed. Around 9, a woman in her early 30s arrived wearing a dark polo and clean sneakers. She introduced herself as Vanessa, an assistant manager from the flagship location that Colton had personally trained 2 years earlier. He handed her the keys without hesitation. "You're in charge until we find someone permanent. Build them back up." She nodded once. "Got it." By noon, the energy in the store felt different. Not fixed, not light, but honest. That mattered. Colton pulled Jenna aside during her lunch. "I read your file. You've been overlooked." She didn't react. "How would you feel about applying for a team lead position?" Jenna studied him. "Is that something you're offering to fix a PR problem? Or because I earned it?" Colton smiled, tired but sincere. "Because you earned it." Her eyes softened. "Then I'll think about it." He nodded. "Fair." He stepped outside briefly, standing in the sunlit alley where he'd made the call the night before. The dumpster still sat at the corner. The same oil stains streaked the concrete. But the silence felt different now. He wasn't proud of what he'd found. But he was damn sure proud of what came next. The next 3 weeks weren't smooth, but they were honest. Vanessa took charge of the day-to-day at Store 5, and Colton stayed close, never hovering, but always watching. The disguise was gone, but his presence didn't fade. He rotated between the line and the floor, helping during peak hours, patching gaps where the team still felt the weight of being short-staffed. Turnarounds didn't happen by announcement, they happened in the trenches, one shift at a time. On Thursday morning, Jenna arrived 20 minutes early. She found Colton checking inventory in the dry storage room, jotting notes next to a half-empty box of pancake mix. "You still planning to hand out that team lead role?" she asked. He looked up. "I am." She nodded once. "Then I'm ready." He set the clipboard down. "What changed?" "I spent the last week watching how decisions get made when no one's hiding. And I realized I already do half the work. I just never thought I'd be given the room to own it." Colton picked up a keycard envelope from the shelf. "Then let's make it official. Full bump in pay. Shift input authority. And you'll start training on scheduling next week." Jenna took the envelope without hesitation. "Vanessa already asked me to help cover for her next Thursday. Something about a new hire orientation." "She told me," Colton said. "You'll be great." She gave a short nod, then turned toward the kitchen. "No thanks."
No dramatic pause.
Just movement forward. Brooke, meanwhile, had started picking up closing shifts. Vanessa quickly noticed her knack for calming down irate customers and handling late-night refunds without flinching. One night, after a particularly chaotic dinner rush, Vanessa offered her a spot as a front-of-house supervisor in training. She accepted quietly, but Colton caught her reprinting training guides late into the next shift, highlighting, color-coding, preparing. Kenzie hadn't said much since Drew was removed. She worked diligently, kept her head low, and asked for nothing. Colton didn't push. He waited. It was during a Monday post-lunch lull when she finally approached him. He was wiping down table edges near the window. "Can I ask you something?" she said. He set the rag down. "Sure. Do you think someone like me could handle hostess duty?" He gave her a curious look. "What do you mean, someone like you?" "I'm not loud," she said. "I'm not quick with people. I'm not like Jenna." "You're not supposed to be," he replied. "If you're calm, if you listen, and if you care about how people feel when they walk in, you'll do just fine." She hesitated. "I'd like to try." He nodded. "Vanessa will start you next Friday. Shadow a few shifts, then we'll evaluate." Kenzie didn't smile, but she stood a little straighter when she walked away. Micah, on the other hand, had become more vocal, not in complaints but in solutions. He started offering small fixes, rearranging the dish racks to reduce breakage, timing cycles to match the grill's output. One afternoon, Colton caught him showing a new hire how to stack utensils to avoid water pooling. Colton pulled him aside. "You ever thought about culinary school?" he asked. Micah shrugged. "Can't afford it. And I'm not sure I'd belong." Colton handed him a business card with a handwritten note on the back. "My father kept a scholarship fund for internal hires. It's still active. If you're serious, apply.
No strings.
Just prove you want it." Micah took the card without saying a word, but Colton noticed it tucked neatly into his wallet later that evening. Outside the store, the public had started to notice. A local blogger posted a review titled "Same Diner, New Energy," praising the visible teamwork and shift in tone. Customer surveys steadily improved. Cleanliness scores jumped. Wait times dropped. The staff wasn't bigger, but they were tighter. Then came the final piece, the manager hire. Colton sat down with Vanessa after close one night. "You've held this place together," he said. "If you want the permanent role, it's yours." She shook her head once. "I appreciate that. But I like being mobile. I'm good at fixing things, not settling into them. You need someone who wants to build long-term." "I agree," he said. "Which is why I'm offering the role to someone else." She raised an eyebrow. "Her name's Lucia. She's been running store 2 for 4 years. Low turnover. High return staff. No complaints in 2 years. She doesn't micromanage. She listens." Vanessa leaned back.
She's solid.
"Quiet, but sharp. That's what this team needs," Colton said. Lucia started the following Monday. She didn't overhaul anything. She asked questions,
Watched.
took notes, then started making tweaks, rotating the schedule to give everyone at least 1 weekend off per month, adding short cross-training sessions between shifts, adjusting break rotations to avoid burnout during double rushes. After 2 weeks, Kenzie was greeting guests with steady confidence. Brooke had streamlined the closing checklist. Jenna had scheduled and led her first full team huddle. Micah turned in his scholarship application and started prepping for his interview. Colton returned to his main office 3 days later. He didn't announce it. He simply stopped showing up for daily shifts. But every Friday, he'd arrive quietly around 3.
No clipboard.
No tie. Just jeans and a clean shirt. He'd bus tables, chat with staff, and take notes on things that didn't quite add up. One Friday, while restocking the napkin holders, he crossed paths with Jenna. "You're still checking in," she said. "Always will," he replied. She looked around the store, busy, but calm. "I think we're finally breathing again." Colton nodded. That was the goal. As he walked toward the kitchen, he passed the break room. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, the same beat-up fridge hummed quietly. The vending machine still leaned at a slight angle. But above the table, pinned to the corkboard, was a new flyer. It read, "Employee suggestions reviewed weekly by management." Below it, sticky notes in different handwriting offered ideas, some practical, some lighthearted. All of them signed. He stepped inside for a moment, just standing there. 3 weeks ago, he had eaten alone in this room, listening to voices that had no idea he was listening. Now those same voices had a seat at the table, and they weren't whispering anymore.